Welcome to Purple BL Candy Channel. Let's dive into episode 2. I should have known Damon wouldn't waste any time. The moment I stepped into school, bleary-eyed and half-dragging my backpack, he was already leaning against the lockers with that smug grin carved across his face. The grin of someone who knew he had me cornered. "Morning, pet," he drawled, loud enough for the early risers to turn their heads. "Be a good boy and take this." Before I could even register the insult, he shoved his gym bag into my arms. Heavy. Sweat-soaked. The kind of bag you'd never volunteer to carry unless you were being blackmailed, or you lost a stupid bet. "Damon," I hissed under my breath, shifting under the weight. "Are you serious? You could at least say please." He smirked. "I could. But then where's the fun in that?" My jaw clenched. Every instinct screamed at me to throw the bag back at his smug face. But a deal was a deal. 1 week of obedience. My pride was already weeping in a corner, begging me to run. "Fine," I muttered, adjusting the strap. "Enjoy your free labor, Your Highness." The nickname only made him laugh. Not the kind of laugh that was friendly, but one that rolled over me like smoke, thick and invasive, as if he enjoyed how pathetic I looked. By the time we reached class, my arm was numb from the weight. I tried to drop the bag by his desk, but Damon wasn't done humiliating me. "You forgot something," he said lazily. He held up a water bottle. "Thirsty?" I gawked at him. "You have hands? Use them. And yet, I have a servant for the weak." He tilted his head toward me, eyes glinting with amusement. "Don't tell me you're already regretting our little agreement. Day 1 and you're failing miserably." I wanted to argue. I wanted to call him every foul name in the book. But the way his gaze pinned me in place made my throat go dry. Reluctantly, I twisted the cap open and handed it to him. He took a long sip, never breaking eye contact. His throat moved as he swallowed, Adam's apple bobbing, and I hated myself for staring. Heat crawled up my neck and I jerked my eyes away before he could notice. "Too late." He smirked again. "Good boy," he murmured. I nearly slammed my head against the desk. The rest of class was torture. Damon made sure I sat right beside him, dragging my chair closer when I tried to put distance between us. Every time I leaned away, he leaned in, whispering ridiculous demands like, "Pass me your notes. Write this down for me. Stop sighing. You sound desperate." I gritted my teeth so hard I was surprised they didn't crack. My pen snapped mid-scribble, ink splattering across the page, which only made Damon chuckle. "Clumsy," he teased. "But I guess that's part of your charm." "Charm?" I scoffed. "You wouldn't recognize charm if it kissed you in the face." "Funny you'd say that," he said, leaning so close I felt his breath against my ear. "Because I've been wondering how you'd look if I kissed you just to shut you up." My heart did a violent backflip. I fumbled with the broken pen, nearly dropping it to the floor. My laugh came out strained. "Keep dreaming." His grin widened, but he didn't push further. Instead, he leaned back, stretching lazily in his chair as if he hadn't just detonated a bomb in my chest. By lunch, I thought maybe he'd run out of ways to torment me. I was wrong. We sat under the courtyard tree, my usual spot for peace and quiet. Only today, peace was a myth. Damon lounged beside me like a king, legs stretched, tray balanced on his knee. "Fetch me a drink," he said casually, as if we were in the middle of a medieval kingdom. I stared at him. "You already have one." He held up his empty cup and shook it. "Correction. I had one. Now I'm thirsty again. You can go get it yourself." He raised a brow. "And break our deal? Don't tempt me to extend your sentence, pet." My glare could have melted steel, but it only amused him. Grumbling, I got up and stomped toward the cafeteria. Every step was an internal war. Why did I agree to this? Why didn't I just forfeit the bet? Pride? Ego? Was it worth carrying his sweaty bag and playing butler? By the time I returned, Damon was smirking at me like he'd won a prize. Which, in his mind, he had. "Thanks," he said, deliberately brushing his fingers against mine when he took the drink. His touch lingered a second too long. My stomach flipped. "Don't read into it," I snapped, pulling back. "Too late," he murmured, taking a slow sip. I wanted to scream. The rest of the day continued like this. Damon inventing pointless tasks, me fumbling through them while swearing internally. He made me carry his books, sharpen his pencil even though he had a sharpener, and once, just to see me squirm, he made me tie his shoelaces in the hallway. "Are you serious?" I whispered furiously as I knelt down. "Completely," he said, leaning against the wall, watching me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. "You look good down there." My ears burned. "You're insane. And yet you're doing it." I tied the knot so tight I hoped he'd trip later. He only laughed. By the time school ended, I was exhausted. I expected Damon to leave me alone once the bell rang, but he had other plans. "Walk with me," he ordered, slinging his bag over his shoulder. I frowned. "You have your car. Decided to walk today. And you're coming." He didn't even give me a chance to argue, just grabbed my sleeve and tugged me along. I stumbled beside him, trying not to think about how warm his hand felt even through the fabric. The street stretched quiet, lined with fading sunlight. For once, Damon wasn't teasing or barking orders. He just walked. Our shoulders brushed occasionally, sending little shocks through me each time. "Why are you doing this?" I finally asked, breaking the silence. "Doing what?" he replied, hands in pockets. "Dragging me around like I'm your pet?" he supplied, smirking. I groaned. "Ugh, don't call me that." He chuckled. "Relax. I'm not going to bite. Unless you want me to." I tripped over a crack in the sidewalk. Damon caught my arm before I face-planted, steadying me with surprising gentleness. His grip was firm, warm, grounding. "You good?" he asked, his voice low. "Why yeah," I muttered, jerking my arm away. My heart was hammering against my ribs, traitorous and loud. For a second, his gaze softened, less mocking and more curious, like he was searching for something in my face. But then he smirked again, breaking the moment. "Careful. Wouldn't want my servant getting injured on day one." I rolled my eyes, but the heat in my chest wouldn't fade. We stopped at my door, and I was already preparing to slam it shut in his face. But Damon leaned against the frame, casual, dangerous, his presence filling the narrow space. "Tomorrow," he said, voice deceptively calm. "What about tomorrow?" I asked warily. He tilted his head, eyes locking onto mine with that same intensity that made my pulse stumble. "I want you at my house. Early." My mouth went dry. "Why?" He smiled, slow and wicked. "You'll see." And with that, he walked away, leaving me standing there with my heart racing and my mind spinning with 1,000 dangerous possibilities. Day one of obedience was over. And somehow I knew tomorrow would be worse. That's just the beginning of their power struggle, and the sparks are only getting hotter. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for episode 3 of Bound by a Bet. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next.